12,000 contributions. What did you think when you first started watching them?
Do you mind, firstly, can I just say thank you to everyone who's made the journey here and who contributed to this film. I mean, it's quite overwhelming for me to meet you all in person, having watched your footage. And can I apologise to anyone who expected to see more of their footage than they did? But I hope you can understand that with such an enormous amount of contributions, it's very difficult to create something that encompasses all of those in their, well, certainly in their entirety. But I hope that you can see that collectively it amounts to something which, for me, feels very powerful and wonderful and quite beautiful. And hopefully you all feel part of that, even if your contribution to it was relatively small. So thank you again for turning up and for submitting your footage. And then yes, with that number of contributions, it's very challenging. And I personally watched, certainly everybody's footage who's in this room, and many more contributions beyond that. I think personally 250 hours that I watched myself, and beyond that there were many hundreds more hours which were watched by a team of people. We had 12 people who were going through all of the footage that was sent in. And every day we would come in and we would look at some of the examples of clips that they had found, and they would project them up on the wall, and we would watch those and talk about them, and talk about how we might be able to include them in the film, and how essentially how I would, it sounds crude, but rate them in a way, because we had to find a way of whittling down all of this material. And then hopefully the people who were watching that footage, who were filtering it, if you like, were able to consider things in the same way that I would. And that meant that we ended up with a pool, like I say, of about 250 hours. And all of the footage, everyone who's in that room was in that 250 hours. And from that we crafted the film.
And what were you looking for when you're sitting there and something leaps out at you? How does it leap out?
It's very difficult to actually define the qualities of footage that kind of make you appreciate it in a way that means that it gets included. And the ingredients for the footage are very hard to pin down. And it's not necessarily the quality of the footage or the beauty of it, although we did receive some very beautiful and very wonderfully shot images, and I've recognised a few of you in the audience who shot that material. But sometimes the quality is provided by the fact that it is quite rough and ready, and the sound is quite rough, and the image is quite rough. But it gives it a certain intimacy and a certain quality, which is very hard to achieve if you're filming as a crew, as I often have done before. Or even in the way that people film things now, whether in Big Brother style with fixed cameras in people's homes, etc. It's very hard to achieve that intimacy, that point of view that somebody filming with their own camera, whether it's something quite fancy or whether it's a mobile phone, in their own home or in their own surroundings. So the ingredients, the qualities which make a piece of footage stand out to you are yes, quite hard to pin down. But I would say that every clip that we've used, and more beyond that, spoke to me in a different way and either moved me or said something quite profound or something quite beautiful, or allowed us to get from A to B, or became part of a wider theme. And as I'm sure you'll recognise, there are several themes which are coming through in this film, and that people were sharing. So they're quite collective experiences in a way, and they're themes and experiences that I recognise through my own life and experience and the people around me. So we were very keen to draw those experiences together into something that felt like a collective.
And did you start with a sense of the shape that you were going to give it and looked for stuff that fitted that shape, or did the shape coalesce?
No, I mean, as you can probably tell, we structured the film loosely, chronologically, got to the point where we were really scrutinising at what point in the day things happen, but we gave it that rough structure. And that's, I think, partly because all of the material was shot in the day, and so it's a natural form to take. And obviously, if you've seen Life in a Day, many of you have, a wonderful film and a very good example for us. It also followed that structure, that chronological structure, although I think it started at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, rather than midnight, where we start.
Okay. Jack, can I ask you a bit more about the practicalities of how it all happened? You're co-producer who worked at Scott Free, the company who made the original Life in a Day. Just the practical challenge, how did you do it? How did you amass all this footage and start filtering it?
Well, it's like making the film. You can divide it into 2 phases. So one is a kind of marketing phase, and that was really learning. And BBC, Charlotte in documentary commissioning, kind of drove this amazing campaign to get the word out as widely as possible. And the film success is a function of how many people participate or are inspired by the idea. So Morgan's videos are really important in terms of maybe setting a tone for the film, which I think is reflected in the finish. And it's quite a sort of profound endeavour, and it was really important because people don't expect material that you kind of upload via YouTube to be kind of as sort of serious as that. So it was, in my view, a very, very successful campaign to get as many people as possible involved. And then you're into a kind of very irregular filmmaking process where it's an incredibly brave decision for a director to take on a project like this, because you have no control over the material you're going to get, and you're kind of, your film, as far as it's Morgan's film, and is as good as the material that the filmmakers provide. So we get from YouTube drives and drives of these files, and some of you send stuff directly, and it goes into this crazy database that we've built that enables everyone to access everything, and it sort of goes through this process. And there are lots of, they're quite tedious, but I find it quite interesting phases in terms of there are, I think, over 150 different frame rates that have to be kind of harmonised. There's, as Morgan says, huge variance in quality. Clearing stuff is a nightmare. Thank you very much, everyone who put up with all those relentless emails back and forth and forms to sign and so on. So, but as I guess you get close to the end, it becomes closer to a more conventional film. So, we had an orchestra and everything, and there's a normal sound mix, yada yada yada, and then we have film at the end.
And what did you think when we hit 12,000? Was there a point early on where you thought no one's going to send anything in?
Yeah, it's absolutely terrifying. We were really, really worried, because you just don't know whether people are going to respond to it. It was November, maybe people would just be pottering around at home and not really wanting to get out and do stuff. So it was very, very exciting. And we nearly, I think we between doubled or tripled the amount we got from the UK for Life in a Day, for Britain in a Day. And that was all thanks to the BBC's kind of huge marketing campaign.
Abigail, can I ask you, what you commission programmes that are there to help make people learn. What was it that appealed to you about this in the first place?
Well, I think there are so many layers of learning in a project like this, but one of the key things for us is we're very interested in helping people develop digital skills of different kinds, and as soon as Charlotte Moore talked to me about this project, I saw that it was an amazing opportunity to inspire people to learn more about storytelling in film. And as Jack said, we ran a nationwide campaign because we wanted to encourage all sorts of people to take part. So we held workshops with people who had never thought of filming before, to teach them some of the basic skills of storytelling, and actually some of the basics of how to upload onto YouTube, which if you've not done it is to be learnt and had its own challenges. And we produced some with working with Scott Free. We produced some films and guidance on how to film. So there was many layers of learning around storytelling and using a camera. And what I hope is that actually some of that there'll be a sort of ripple effect, because amazing to contribute to this project, but also that some of the learning and inspiration will actually apply in other areas, because so many of us carry around the ability to make a film now, that it seemed to be a wonderful opportunity just to give people a few more skills around that.
Now the film transmits on the BBC on the